Friends, I'll not get into individual slides, but this is fairly important. When we're talking of e-governance and good governance, what's the situation? What's the current situation, and what actually catalyzes e-governance activities? Now, this is a scenario in almost any government office right now, not just in our country, but possibly anywhere else in the world as well. That you have a lot of physical application forms, there are a lot of multiple visits required, retrieval is a time-consuming process, and all the records are in the paper format. And what it actually leads to is frustrated and displeased citizens on the one hand, and waste of financial and other resources. And what do we mean by e-governance? So what we are trying to do is we are trying to move from the earlier approach into an approach wherein you have online applications. That means you have enabled your services, service delivery systems. You're also making use of mobile phones because they are now becoming the in thing. You have standardized the processes, because unless and until you standardize processes, a computer will not be able to replicate the human effort which is involved in disposing of a particular application. And by doing all this, what you're trying to do is you're trying to create a happy citizen, and at the same time you're trying to make processing become easier for the officers who are involved in this particular process. As far as the MeSeva project is concerned in Andhra Pradesh, we launched it as a small initiative in one district on 4th November 2011. And the idea was to provide an end-to-end solution to the delivery of the G2C services. And I'm very happy to inform you that starting from one district, 10 services, 2 departments, today in MeSeva, in just about a year and a half, now we have reached a situation wherein we have 140 services pertaining to 15 departments all across the state. We started with some 200 centers. Now we have 6,000 plus centers in the rural areas and 350 centers in the urban areas, catering to the needs of the population of the state. And some of the salient features of the MeSeva project, it all started with a kind of a legal basis to the entire approach that we followed, wherein in our state we issued the Andhra Pradesh Electronic Service Delivery Rules as part of the IT Act, something which was actually the brainchild of the secretary. He had drafted these rules for a particular state as part of the NISG, and then we took those rules and quickly adapted them to the needs of the state. And by doing this, what we were able to do is provide a backbone, a legal backbone to the issuance of digitally signed certificates. And to create a system wherein the nitty-gritties which are required to be put in place when we issue digitally signed papers or digitally signed certificates, all those nitty-gritties and the safeguards were all built into the electronic service delivery rules. One very important feature of the MeSeva process was the categorization of the G2C services. Wherein it was felt that there are many e-governance services which all go through a workflow. So that means what happens is citizen comes and makes a request, then it goes to that particular office where there is a small workflow involved, and then he again has to come back to the same place where he gave his application to collect the sanction letter or a permit or a certificate. So how do we create a situation wherein we get this workflow out, and some of these workflow-based services could be converted into across-the-counter services? And in that, the concept which was utilized was bulk digital signing of the databases. For example, if you have the birth and death certificates, instead of an individual coming and making a request for a birth certificate, and then later on the workflow is getting followed in a particular government office, we take the entire birth and death database, and that database is digitally signed with the digital signature certificate of the concerned official, and by doing that, you are able to issue these birth and death certificates across the counter. Out of the 140 services that I was telling you, 1/3 of these services are broadly across the counter. So this was an essential change which was made in the earlier system that we used to have. Of course, we had the another concept which was a single entry portal, as I was mentioning in the morning, so that the citizen interface, the entry and the exit of the citizen is through the MeSeva system. For any government service, he just approaches the MeSeva center, there is an entry point, and the exit also is from the MeSeva system. Digitally signed, digital signatures. An important problem which we used to face earlier was that an application was though received in a common service center and it was forwarded to a concerned government office. The problem was that there's still a manual workflow being followed in a government office. So what actually used to happen was, even though a paper is given in electronic format, the entire process used to be ink-driven. And because of this, it was impossible to provide services within the limited time frame. So what we actually did in MeSeva is that no service is being given without digital signatures. So for example, now all the tehsildars in our state, or all the station house officers of the police department, or the municipal commissioners, all of them were given digital signature certificates, and all the certificates and sanctions that we give through MeSeva are issued with the help of the digital signature certificate. Besides this, there are other issues of real-time monitoring by making use of mobile updates and stuff like that. As I was telling you, 125 services, with the number is 141 today, because 16 more services have been added in the last 3 days, and we have completed more than 1 crore 61 lakh transactions in the last about a year, I would say. And every day we are now clocking more than 70,000 to 80,000 transactions. And this is how this entire thing has started off on a low scale, and now if you look at it, the project has stabilized. And in fact, this is the overall count. If you look at it, any department, any department which has citizen centricity has been brought into the MeSeva fold. Revenue department, between the tehsildars, the SDMs, the collectors, the joint collectors, we have more than 55 services of the revenue department right now. And similarly, registration department, 12 services. And shortly we are going to be starting a service of doing the pre-registration work and slot booking through this system, so that the entire process of registration is streamlined and people do not face harassment at the hands of the sub-registrars and the departmental officials. A lot of municipality services, because again a cutting-edge department. Interestingly, we have police department 4 services. Now in our state, for example, if somebody loses a document or a cell phone or a passport, any articles or a document being lost, they need not go to a police station. They can just go to a MeSeva center, file an FIR at the center, and it gets electronically transmitted to the concerned station house officer who disposes it of in his own domain. Similarly, we have services from power distribution, transport, education, whole range of services. The idea of this entire thing is, any department that has citizen centricity should bring their services through the MeSeva system. Citizen will not go to a government office. He will only go to a MeSeva center. And because all these MeSeva centers, as I mentioned in the morning, they are all common service centers. They are run by technically unemployed youth. They're their own peers in the village. So it makes the overall process much more friendlier for the common citizen. This is a list of, as I mentioned to you, in the next 6 months, we're planning to add 160 services. The entire bouquet will be about 300 G2C services, all being issued through the digital signature certificates of the concerned functionary. And at this point, I'd like to close and give you an essential feedback into what were the challenges we faced in the MeSeva project, and how we mitigated those challenges, and what are the lessons to be learned. And the biggest challenge to my mind is the turf. Now what actually happens is, when you have this kind of an approach, the departments have to agree to cede power, because when you're trying to take away these services which are being delivered through those offices, and you're trying to put them into public domain, the problem that you face is the departmental resistance and the resistance to change and the entire process. To my mind, this was mitigated. Yeah. Yeah. What actually happens is,
we don't amend the laws. For example, let's say we have to as far as the revenue, let's say we call it, in our state we call it adangal, which is actually the copy of the land records. Now they are done as per the Land Records Act that we have in the state. Only thing what we have done is we have automated the entire process which is involved. So we have not changed the act or the process involved, but we have automated that entire process. And yeah, that also is required in some cases. For example, we actually want, as far as the police department services is concerned, we actually wanted to even do the normal FIR filing also in the police station, which is right now being done in the police station. But I think as per the CRPC, it has to be filed before the station house officer. So what we have tried to do is we have taken away that part, but these missing articles and document part has actually been taken into the MeSeva system. And the ESD rules that we have formulated in our state makes it mandatory for the government departments, all the government departments which have citizen centricity. The ESD rules which we have formulated makes it mandatory for them to come to the electronic system in a year's time. So it's a kind of a mandate which is given to all the departments. So what actually happens is the kind of challenges which I was talking about, the challenges that we faced. Challenge number 2 was the capacity building. Now, you may have whatever infrastructure in place, but unless and until you build the capacities of the individuals who run those systems, be it in the government or the MeSeva centers which are run by these unemployed youth, the project will not achieve desired outcomes. So the lesson number 2 is, before we embark on similar projects, we need to build the capacities both of the people who are running the kiosk as well as the people who are going to be delivering these services. And the last issue would be the optimal utilization of the infrastructure that we create, and which all the states have now created in terms of the state data center, the statewide area network, and the common service centers. So to my mind, these are the 3 broad challenges.